on this show, I don't mention people who have negative narratives all the time and just want to bring players, cities, organizations just for no reason. So hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Player to Be Named Later. I'm G. I hope everyone's doing well and having a great week. A lot of stuff happening, of course, in the sports world. This episode is going to be a this and that episode where I talk about a few different things, not just my favorite teams. So let's get into a few different topics. First off, I want to just talk about the WNBA. The Toronto Temple unveiled their logo, their marketing campaign, and things are really looking up for this expansion franchise. I'm so excited to watch the WNBA come to Toronto. The rich history that this league has is unbelievable. From, if you haven't had a chance to really watch the WNBA, do some research, watch some YouTube. There are some stars that really set the foundation for the WNBA. Everyone's talking now about how the WNBA is going to transform women's sports. I'm right there with that, but you have to look back and pay homage to players like Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Dawn Staley, Swin Cash, Sue Bird. There's just so many players out there. Chinea Ogwumike. Some of the newer players, obviously, you have Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, Candace Parker, can't forget her, obviously. These are stars, absolute basketball stars that we need to recognize in the WNBA. But getting into the Toronto Temple, I'm just looking forward to what they have in terms of how they're going to build this team. And first and foremost, I think it starts at the top, obviously with Teresa Resch, President of Basketball Operations for the Toronto Temple. And you look at her resume and who she learned under. She really learned a lot from the guy, Masai Ujiri. And I'll get into Masai in a second and a little bit more about that executive tree. But I also wanted to speak a little bit about a tape that I heard and read about and watched, and I'm not going to name the former NBA player. You'll probably be able to figure it out for yourself. He's not worth mentioning. On this show, I don't mention people who have negative narratives all the time and just want to bring players, cities, organizations just for no reason. So it's one former player. When you talk about basketball skill on the court, one of the most skilled basketball players I've personally ever watched, had a lot to offer, but really screwed up his career by doing something so stupid. Bringing a gun into the locker room, basically blackballing himself from the NBA. You just don't do something as dumb as that. I don't care how G you are, how, you want to stand up to your teammates or how macho you think you are. That's just not a team move. So obviously this guy is where he is now, a talking head, and coming up with takes like saying that Pearson International Airport is going to be an issue for the WNBA teams visiting. Hasn't seemed to be an issue with the NBA coming to Toronto for the last 30 years with the Raptors. Listen, if you're an athlete and you've put in that work for decades of your life, a little delay here and there when you're traveling, I'm sure you get used to stuff like that. Telling your audience and putting the narrative out there that customs is an issue for players, and if they have those complaints, I don't think they're really understanding the position they're in, what they're doing every day, something they love. I've traveled for work. I've had to travel and land in cities at 2 a.m, wake up at 6 for a meeting at 8. Get over it. Basically, if you're an athlete that actually feels that way about customs, I say if you're coming to Toronto, I say get over it and be a professional, and don't let these, if you're a fan, and even some media who are going to jump on this, don't let that affect your narrative. The WNBA expanded to Toronto for a reason. They'll be playing in a stadium that holds 8,000 fans, 7,000 season tickets have already been sold. You see the fan base that the Toronto Raptors have built. Don't expect anything less with the Toronto Tempo. And, I don't want to hear things either about their logo or about their motto. Listen, support the team, support that they're an expansion franchise. They're going to go through their ups and downs, but also take into heed what Teresa Resch is saying about her organization, her team, and you'll really see that things are looking up for Toronto Tempo and WNBA in Canada. And I'm really here for all of it. I can't wait to watch the games, like I said, and see where it goes from here. Like I said, I wanted to just talk a little bit again about Teresa Resch and how that ties into Masai Ujiri. A lot of people, again, I'll always have time to fit in some Raptors takes, me. When it comes to Masai, you hear a lot around sports about coaching tree, but people who talk about Masai and what he's done in Toronto, especially recently, first of all, again, won a championship in 2019, had to deal with COVID, moving the franchise to Tampa. That wasn't just easy for anyone, let alone, I can't imagine from a business standpoint, moving your entire operation, especially an NBA franchise, to a completely other country for basically a year and a half when you include the bubble, season and a half. And so he doesn't get enough credit for that. But what I really want to talk about is, when you talk about the coaching tree, you look at Masai's executive tree and you think about the executives that have now gone on to other opportunities, other teams. And it actually is a testament to what Masai has done for basketball in this country, for the NBA, now the WNBA with Teresa Resch crossing over from the Raptors. She had an executive position with the Raptors, and now again is the president of basketball operations for the Toronto Tempo. But you look at the Orlando Magic, Jeff Weltman is president of basketball operations for the Magic. Their future end team looks great with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. The team they've built, he worked under Masai for 4 or 5 years, 2013 to 2017. Mark Eversley, another executive, running the Chicago Bulls. Obviously not as much success there for the Bulls, but I think also you can't really blame Mark Eversley. I think they got some bad luck there with Lonzo Ball being hurt. I think their team would have looked great with Lonzo, Zach LaVine, Sasha Vucevic, the picks they built around that foundation. Mark Eversley is doing a good job there. So, like I said, it goes back again to Masai and the work he's put in, and that to me really shows how much he's accomplished here. And the media and fraction of the fan base that I don't know what they're watching, if they just want Masai out for whatever reason, I don't understand. In addition to what he's done with executives, he's grown the game globally with Giants of Africa, his camps overseas in African nations, and he's just literally one of the most sought after executives, I would say, not only in basketball, but if he ever did leave the Raptors, I'm sure there's a lot of sports organizations, foundations, even countries that would love to have him running their organization. So we should praise and be lucky that we have Masai here in control of the Raptors. Bobby Webster has learned so much under him. You look at Dan Tolzman, those are going to be another 2 executives. Obviously, Bobby Webster is already GM of the Raptors, but you look at someone like Dan Tolzman and his drafting and development team under him and what's happened there, again, all under Masai. So we need to really respect that. So Last night, I actually wanted to just touch on something that when I was watching the NBA Cup during halftime of the Knicks-Hawks game, Mike Wilbon and Kendrick Perkins, I don't mind shouting them out. Those guys are legends. I love watching them on TV. I really thought it was funny that they showed a highlight of OG Anunoby with a steal, takes it down court, goes hard to the basket, two-hand dunk. All of a sudden, OG Anunoby is Scottie Pippen from 2000, apparently. And the reason why this is a problem for me is up here in Toronto, when you guys, or when the media didn't want to pay any attention to the development of what was happening up here with guys like OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, all of a sudden he's being compared to one of the 50 greatest players in the NBA. And again, this comes back to what's been built here up in Toronto. Pay attention. NBA media in America, in the States, fans, call it what you want, inferiority complex of what we have to deal with, but it is kind of sad when you deal with it. I think diehard basketball fans give the proper credit where credit's due and they pay attention, but those fan bases and media who just kind of like to stoke the fire, pay attention. I wouldn't really call you guys really fans if that's how you look at Toronto franchises and the city as a city that can support top tier sports teams and organizations. This city is actually a sports town, and we see it now. Like I said, getting the Toronto Temple just adds to the portfolio of Toronto sports, which again, I saw an article from internally within Canada from a media outlet out in Saskatoon, thinking that Toronto's things were the center of the world and we're making such a big fuss about missing out on Juan Soto. Like I said, this is a this and that episode, so I'm going to be all over the place here. But this article basically said that we're acting like sore losers that we didn't get Juan Soto. Listen, I don't know one Jays fan who ever thought we were getting Juan Soto. I've watched this team since the mid-'80s, right through until now. I've seen some bad eras. Right now with Shapiro and Atkins, you can classify as one of the worst. I would say Interbrew was the worst, but this is a top 3 worst era for me in baseball, in Blue Jays history. I, for one, never thought once that we were getting either Shohei or Ohtani or Juan Soto. I've always maintained that Mark and Ross should spend the money elsewhere. If you're going to throw money, that much money at guys like that, spread it around. Build a balanced team. Now, I like what you guys did with bringing in Andres Jimenez, Sandlin, and bringing back Jimmy Garcia. I think those are addressing good needs. Andres Jimenez, one of the best defenders in baseball. But listen, we need a power bat, maybe 2 in there. Maybe another starting pitcher. Don't waste the money on Corbin Burns. Go after a Walker Buehler, someone who's not going to cost us much money. Spend the money on power bats and filling out the rest of the bullpen, and then we're talking. So yeah, that whole point started out with the whole OG being compared to Scottie Pippen. I don't know how I got on this tangent. But listen, the basketball media in America needs to pay more attention to the development of what's going on up here. And now I could see it happening all over again with who the Raptors have drafted, basically turning their team around in one season. In one season, this team is going to be something to reckon with. They've had injuries and schedule issues that have just hampered their season, but they're well on their way. Things are looking good. And before you know it, American teams and American media and fans are just going to be acting like we're a farm team and how they could fleece the Raptors on deals. I don't know if you've paid attention, but Masai Ujiri has never been fleeced on a deal. Everyone thought that we got fleeced with the Pascal trade, with the Knicks trade. I think we're showing the real results of that now. Tonight, NFL Week 15 gets underway. Just wanted to say a little bit. Didn't really get to talk about Week 14, but and my Steelers. kind of figured they would win, bounce back against the Browns. So not much to that there. But I wanted to talk about the Detroit Lions. Listen, Dan Campbell is a madman. He's a great coach. He's a player's coach. Needs to be respected for the risks he takes. I have a lot of respect for that guy as a coach. He's a player's coach, like I said, played the game. That means a lot, I think, especially when you're talking about the NFL. I went to a Lions game last year. My sister's partner is a huge Lions fan. The history they have with that team. Listen, if I wasn't a diehard Steelers fan from the 90s, I think I'd be a Lions fan. Even with all the losing, I went to Ford Field last year. Funny enough, it was the Lions against the Broncos, so I watched Russ play last year with the Broncos. He actually had a decent game, but Detroit's defense was just on another level last year. This year, they've taken some injuries, obviously, but that fan base, first of all, I came in there as a Steelers fan, not just as a Steelers fan, but, you know, you get, for anyone who's gone to an NFL game, you sit down, you take your seats, right away, you're one of the friends and family of everyone who's sitting in that section. And, you know, obviously if you're a fan of the other team, that's different. But because I was sitting with Lions fans, I got right into it with them. Great fan base. I would really love to see, obviously, the Lions against the Steelers in the Super Bowl. That would be absolutely the best thing that could happen this season, at least for me as a fan. But yeah, Detroit, shout out Detroit. So good to see the Lions where they are. I just hope that these injuries don't come back to haunt them. And I hope they can really make a run. So looking forward to, you know, that game last week. You know, Dan Campbell calling that fourth and whatever, I think it was 4th and 1 with under a minute to kill the clock so that he could kick a last second field goal and take that game. That just shows the moxie he has as a coach and that his team believes in him. So kicking it off tonight, Rams and 49ers. Looking at the Rams, they need to take control here if they want any shot at this division. And, you know, the 49ers have had a rough season from injury aspect, the whole contract thing with Brandon Ayuk, and then the guy gets hurt. Niners have really had a down season. McCaffrey hurt most of the season. Brock Purdy having an off year. Debo having an off year. Kittle not really having, I wouldn't say an off year, but just, you know, because he flows so much with what they do with that offense, it just hasn't looked right. I'm sure they'll be back next season. That's a storied franchise. So, yeah, looking forward to kicking off Week 15 tonight, and I hope you are too. Once again, I want to thank everyone who's been following on all my platforms, watching my videos. Not much views yet, obviously, but spread the word. I hope you like what you see. Send me some comments, send me some questions. Let me know what you want me to talk about. First, I was just on TikTok, but people sent me messages wanting to see the reels on IG, so I'm on IG as well now. All those links are in my profiles. So look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'll be doing one tomorrow. I'll be talking a bit about the Leafs. Haven't spoken about them in a week. They're more of a long-term vision when we talk about the Leafs, at least on this channel. It comes down to the playoffs, but they had back-to-back losses against the Caps and Pens. Nothing really to worry about. Austin doing his thing against Jersey. They had no business really winning that game, but Stolars once again stood on his head in goal, and then Austin wins it in overtime, having off that breakaway. Everyone talking about how many chances he had during the game. You know, that's Austin. He's gonna have his chances just like any amazing goal scorer. It's not always gonna go in, but when the time comes, when the time is right, crunch time, that winning goal in overtime was magic. So we'll see what they have tonight. Raptors playing tonight against the Heat. We'll talk obviously a bit about that. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. Follow, subscribe, like, comment. Thanks, guys.